First of all, I think your analysis was very straight-lined. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go down that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they weren't talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got nothing.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Tomorrow, Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
the
an
kind of
erratic
Mickey
detective
Rodriguez.
is Mickey Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? No, you deal with that. You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Welcome to the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon Show. We're now in our 16th month. We come to you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8:30 to 9:30. When it's a call-in, we go to 10 o'clock. Unfortunately, Leonard Gildarie is not here with us. I think it may be his work. You know, Leonard Gildarie is a budding businessman. One has to live. So I'm assuming that he got caught up in his job. This evening, we have a man in our studio whose story is close to my heart. As someone who has read untold amount of biographies, I can tell you, the story of rag to riches resonates with people all over the world and has been resonating with people for a long, long time. People enjoy reading about the story of rag to riches because it's just an enthralling story. But more importantly, that story symbolizes the meaning of human existence, that you don't have to be pessimistic about life. And that is one of the things existentialist philosophy teaches us, if you're ever familiar with existentialist philosophy, is that you don't have to be pessimistic. You can use the spirit. You can use the spirit and your dreams to take you to where you are. And even though some of the dreams fall by the wayside, you must still keep trying. Our guest this evening is someone that I said his story is close to my heart, because I know what it is like to be a nobody. You don't know if you'll exist tomorrow. And thankfully, my spirit led me to attending some of the best universities in the world. And I'm happy that I have achieved something in my life. That is the story of our guest this evening. You're not going to believe the story of rag to riches. I will just start with a little snippet and then we'll introduce him and he will flow for the next hour. This gentleman that is in our studio right next to me was a taxi driver, was a carpenter, and I will hand you over to him by saying that today he is one of the Caribbean's most successful businessmen. Now, I don't want to talk about, you can read between the lines. If someone is one of the most successful Caribbean businessmen, then you know what type of assets we're talking about. Imagine someone being a taxi driver and today is one of Guyana's most successful businessmen with a large diversified enterprise. Our guest this evening is the chairman of the Private Sector Commission on one of Guyana's enduring entrepreneurs. He will tell you about his business, but most of all, I'm interested in him reminiscing about the time when he was just down, and I'd like to hear about that, and I think you should hear about that because, as I said before, people like to hear those stories because I think it motivates them. Our guest this evening, as I said before, Chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Mr. Komal Singh. Komal, I can't call you Mr. Singh. You're too modest upon ordinary a person. Thanks for being here. Komal, I'm enthralled, and I think most people would be. A man driving a taxi, and today people would shudder if they think to know what are your assets. Tell us how a taxi driver has come to have one of the largest business ventures in Guyana, employing how many people?
We have over 200-300 workers.
200-300 workers.
Direct and indirect.
And I know you own a few vessels.
Yes.
I must take a trip on one of those vessels up the Essequibo River.
Yes.
Komal, did you ever believe that when you were a carpenter that you would be one of Guyana's most successful businessmen? I guess you felt that.
Well, Freddie, let me thank you very much for allowing me to come on your platform. I think this platform offers very interesting information to our public. It gives our public motivation when they hear certain stories and when they understand.
They will hear your story this evening.
They will. And I think, I'm going to share in very summary, my history. So as to allow, those guys who are sitting out there and who think that, hey, I cannot achieve this or I cannot achieve that. The word cannot should never be in
just flow freely.
You need to.
I want to hear.
You need to set your objective, and you need to work toward achieving those objectives. Failure in life is a must. If you don't fail, you don't understand how you need to work again to achieve something higher than what you have failed. I have been in business for the last 28 years. In my younger days, I grew up on a farm. All right, we grew up in a family of 8, 5 boys and 3 girls. During the school holidays, my parents would take us into the farm to do the work that we couldn't do during school time. All right, so we do almost everything on the farm: digging drain, weeding, cutting pineapple, cutting cane, etc. During my grew up in the early 90s, I recognized that in order for you to develop yourself, you need to do multiple stuff. And for that, I've decided, I need to grow, but you cannot grow by doing one stuff. So I started working on the farm. I started doing taxi work on weekends. I started working minibus on weekends. And those days allowed me to understand what it takes to earn $1. All right? Because every dollar counts at the end of the day when you're in those business. And I think, as a result of working taxi and working minibus and working on the farm, I also recognize that if you work hard, you can actually achieve things that you want to achieve. So when I started working at Texaco in 1990, I decided, I will still continue doing some of those things.
As what?
I joined Texaco in 1990 as a basic accounts clerk.
Okay.
All right. And I swiftly grew from an accounts clerk up to different positions: accountant, financial analyst, IT coordinator, marketing manager. But while I was sitting in all those positions, I did not give up some of the things that I was doing. For example, going on weekends and continuing to do taxi and minibus work. Because I feel that if you want to achieve something, you should continue working hard as a young man. And in those days, I figured that if you're young, you have all the energy, you should work as much as you can to achieve the objective that you want. We continue locally and in our system to cry foul sometimes that, we're not given opportunity and we want everything on a gold platter. My advice to everybody and to the younger folks out there is that we need to set our objective. We need to understand where we want to see ourselves 5 years, 10 years from now going forward. And set those objectives and work towards achieving those objectives. Don't allow anything to stop you from achieving those objectives. Don't allow nothing to be a barrier to achieving those objectives. And I think when I look back at myself, it resonated with me that, because of my persistence and my commitment to what I want to achieve, it allows me to be where I am today.
While you were a minibus driver and a taxi driver, you were married?
Yeah.
So the wife was there with you all the time?
They were with me. My kids actually, my first kid born in 1997. And since then, they were all sitting in my vehicles, when we used to do construction work around the place. They used to be with me late at night, and that allowed them also to appreciate, where the company came from and why they spend a lot of time today understanding and still like to be part of the business. All right.
But being a taxi driver and a minibus driver, I think that orientation and the knowledge you acquired from that socialization must have helped now that you are a successful entrepreneur, in that you didn't go up with a silver spoon in your mouth. I think it's important for rich business people to have an understanding of life down there. And when you can be so successful and have so much wealth, but come from that background, I think you such a person is a better person in life and is a better businessman, because you live in one world and you've seen the other world.
So let me comment on that. And you're right. When I look back at the opportunity that I had, I never regret on the hard work I had to do, the tough times that I had. I never regret those days. I look back at it and I said, I was fortunate, because like you said, it allows me to understand the guys that are right down at the bottom of the ordinary level while I'm still running a business. And that is why, if you know me and my company and my employees, I'm on the ground with my employees every single day. All right? Anything I ask them to do, if they need help, I get involved and do it. If I get onto a site and they're short of an excavator operator, for example, and they need to do stuff, I'll jump in an excavator and work along with them. All right, I'll take my jacket off and just
it comes from that early socialization.
It comes from that early socialization. You get more appreciative of the ordinary guys at the bottom. And that gave rise to what I said to you earlier in our brief conversation. Most of our core workers did not went past primary school, or not went past secondary school. But they came on board with us over 20 years ago. Some of them, at least 3 guys were with us over 28 years now. But they came on board with us, they had the right attitude, they were willing to learn, and we gave them that platform and that opportunity, and they were able to develop themselves rapidly within the organization in terms of knowledge. And because of where I came from, it allows me to see them right down at the bottom, to understand their position at the bottom. And I think that also adds to our success in business over the years.
If you have just joined us, sorry, Gildarie is not here. Our guest this evening is Mr. Komal Singh, one of Guyana's most successful and enduring entrepreneur, someone who came from very humble beginning, driving minibus, driving taxi. When we had a call-in program on Friday, we had some calls, particularly a woman who said she graduated in civil engineer and cannot find a job. And someone texted Gildarie to say he has a company and he will employ her, given her eligibility. Mr. Singh runs a very, very large construction company with diversified sections, and I think he can employ he has need for civil engineers. If that young lady that called us on Friday is looking at this program, my cell phone is 614-5927. 614-5927. Please let her contact me and I will ask I will ask Mr. Singh if one of his managers can interview her and see if she's eligible for a job. If that young lady is listening, I think there was another person who is in civil engineer and said they cannot find a job. Maybe, I don't know, for whatever reason, sometimes you apply and you don't hear back from people, but you have an opportunity now of working with one of Guyana's most successful entrepreneurs with a large diversified company that can use civil engineers. I will ask Mr. Singh to describe for us his business entities. I know Geico is very, very well known, but the Geico I know in those days was a small thing. Now Geico is probably a monster.
Well, I won't say we're a monster, but we're sizable in Guyana market. Before we kind of lost track of employment. Right now, we are willing to employ anybody with absolutely no skills. As long as you're willing to work, you can come and apply from us and you will get a job. We'll offer you any job, but you must be willing to work. You must be willing to come to work, be punctual, and give us at least 5 to 6 days work per week. We will employ you. Right now, Guyana has a serious labor shortage in our market. There is so much work taking place right now in Guyana, we don't have enough workers to meet the demand in the marketplace. And as such, if anybody is out there and looking for a job, feel free to contact me directly, 623-4161, or send your application to Geico. Someone will respond to you.
Please repeat that number. Make a note of it if you can get a job when you're a UG graduate. Not many people that come on the show because of their status want to publicize their cell number. Could you repeat it, Komal?
It's 623-4161.
Please write that down.
Feel free to call me. I am very passionate about people getting jobs in Guyana. And I think when you look around to the market in the government sector and in the private sector, the amount of work that is out there at this point in time, absolutely no Guyanese should be without of a job right now. None. Currently, we can take on at least 50 to 100 workers right now.
Your company?
Our company. All right. We have so many stuff to get done. All right. We can willingly take on at least 100 workers right now. And like I said, you don't need to come with no skill. We will work with you. We will help develop you. We will help train you. But you must be willing to work. You must be willing to work. That's the key. You must be willing to work. You must be willing to be a team player. Our workforce have developed themselves because they were willing to work. They were willing to be team player. They were willing to multitask. And they were able to get all the opportunity that exists within the organization. Coming back to the question about where Geico is at this point in time, Geico is involved in a wide range of different activities in our country. Developmental activity, construction. We do deep foundation. We're one of the largest company that do pile driving in the marine front with our marine fleet. We also have a big consortium with a Finnish company with Guyana Shore Base, and we form a company called Sustainable Environmental Solution. And that company built a top-of-the-line, world-class waste management facility that processes all the hazardous waste that comes in from the oil and gas sector. We also do oil spill response locally. We have that consortium partner out of Finland, Lamur Group out of Finland. At the same group, we have the partnership also with them for waste management. We're now working also on the C6 pipeline project. We formed a consortium recently with an Italian company.
Wow.
And we were able to win that contract. What I'll say to our local business grouping is that the market is moving at such a rapid pace. We locally don't have enough capacity, both financial, technical, and the requisite experience to jump on board with certain projects that need to get done. And these projects must get done. So in order for us to capitalize on those opportunities, it is very, very important and it is imperative that you go there and seek out and find consortium partners. And there are many, many. Every single day, you have people coming into this country looking to see what opportunity they can capitalize on and who they can partner with. It is up to us to do our due diligence to make sure that we partner with the right people and with the right companion so we can have a successful business venture. We have seen tremendous success by creating these consortium and partnership. We were able to grow our company. We were able to capitalize on some of the major projects within the oil sector. All right. Waste management was one of them. Tank cleaning was another one. Those services were done out of Guyana in Trinidad. And since that facility was built here, waste management, most of that work is done locally right now. Tank cleaning, the same thing. By the end of this year, all of that tank cleaning work will be done locally, right? Because we're still building up capacity, all right, locally. And that facility currently employs almost 99% local. Our Guyanese brothers and sisters is running that facility. Over the last 2 years, they were able to build up their experience and the technical knowledge that is needed to run that facility. And I can safely say here that our Guyanese brothers and sisters have great capability, great capacity to develop themselves, if given the opportunity, the right training, the right support. And within our organization, we have seen that to be a very successful operation, right? When our people develop themselves, put the right foot forward, and be a team player and willing to learn.
So you have a consortium arrangement with an Italian company.
Yeah, Citrem out of Italy.
Right. And they do what?
The pipeline project as part of the gas to energy project, which is one of the most transformational projects that is taking place right now in Guyana. And I say transformational because it's not just going to bring more power to our grid, but it's going to bring cheaper power to our grid. It's going to open up a whole host of industrial operation. Our manufacturing sector will now be able to access cheap power so we can be more competitive now on our world market and our value-added product that we'll be doing. We were suffering for the longest while in this country with high energy costs.
Yeah, of course.
We cannot be competitive in what we produce if we're going to be producing at a 26 and 30 cents per kilowatt hour. We cannot be competitive. When the world out there are running at a 10 cents and 11 cents and 12 cents per kilowatt hour. So we have to be able to bring that energy cost down, and the gas to energy project, like I said, will bring that benefit to all of Guyana, to the manufacturing sector. So we'll see a lot more value-added product and more manufacturing taking place when the power plant gets up and running.
So that's the Italian side of it. There's a Finnish side to your business. Finland now.
We also have a partnership in the US with Tampa Tank. Tampa Tank in the US, they build lots of oil field tanks around the world. We've worked with them over the last 10 years in Guyana and in the region, building foundations, and they put up the tank. These are fuel storage tanks. And we have gained quite a bit of experience working along with that international company. We've also created a consortium with not a US company, and this is an engineering company, Case Engineering out of Louisiana. We've been working with them since 2017, bringing that high level of engineering and technical expertise that is needed to raise the bar for construction in Guyana. That company has supported us tremendously in many projects since 2017 to now. And I think we will continue to look out for partners. We're now jumping into a different venture, and this is the agriculture sector. I was in agriculture in my young days, but I'm still going back into it now.
You're born in a farm. Right?
So I'm going back into it right now because, and this is in the area of fertilizer. As you are aware right now, the entire region is looking to reduce the import food bill by 25% by 2025. And Guyana has to play a very critical role in that. Fertilizer, as you're aware, over the years have been an issue in Guyana, both for access sometimes, it has shortage sometimes, and even the prices that we have to pay for fertilizer. We recognize with the development that is currently taking place, it is important that we have our own fertilizer blending plant locally. And as such...
And you getting into that.
And as such, we have inked an MOU recently with Forzan out of Dominican Republic, all right, to partner with us to build that blending plant locally. All right, that plant should get going. We already bought the plant. The plant should be shipped, be in Guyana by the end of this year. All right, construction will begin first quarter of next year, and hopefully by the end of next year we should have that blending plant up and running. That will create a job opportunity for an additional 60 employees when completed, and it will also create an opportunity for farmers to have more scientific fertilization taking place, because we now will be going out to farmers, do samples of soil around the country, so we blend to suit the soil requirement rather than just do one generic blend. All right. So farmers will now benefit from a higher yield per acre by making sure that they use fertilizer in a proper way. They will also be able to optimize in the amount of fertilizer they use it, because it's now going to be blended to suit their soil environment. Right.
How, when you listen to you, how do you manage? I was right. Your Geico has become a monster.
Look,
how do you manage?
I think I manage well in terms of making sure. I do a lot of bottom-up management. My management style is a little different. I don't do too much top-down management. I allow my management team at the lower level to function. I delegate. I give them the authority to do certain stuff. And if they need any guidance and assistance, they come back to me. If you don't delegate, you can run into issues, all right, in terms of management. But as we keep growing, we need to add more management or more people to our management team as we continue to grow. We're not shy of that, and that is why we create these consortium and partnership. Because when we have these partnerships, they bring the management and the technical expertise on board on the table with us. So instead of we locally have to fight to manage the entire project by itself, they bring an entire management team to work with us. So management becomes very easy at that point in time. But if you attempt to do everything on your own, you will definitely have an issue. Right? So all our consortium partners that we have, they also support us with management at that level.
You said something earlier, and I hope people who joined us early listen and got a glimpse of it, or those who are now joining us. You said there were some services that was held in Trinidad, performed in Trinidad, and now you have captured that, or those services. You think that came about because of the local content legislation, or you reached out on your own and pulled those operations into Guyana?
No, I think the oil companies that are here, those oil companies had and still do have good intention to make sure that a lot of the services that need to be offered to satisfy the industry happens from Guyana. And it is as a result of that we were able to participate in a tender, because they see the benefit of it being done locally, so they advertise it and they allow us to tender locally for it. If they didn't have good intention and they didn't want to do it locally, they would not have advertised it locally. So I must say, Exxon have done an extremely good job where that is concerned, trying to allow Guyanese companies to participate in the oil and gas sector as much as possible. The local content legislation had nothing to do with that. Like I said, that was an advertisement that came out from the company locally. We participated in it because they see the benefit in it happening locally. The local content legislation, on the other hand, if I speak on that briefly, the local content legislation allows our local company to benefit, local companies in Guyana to benefit in the oil and gas sector in many areas. It also allows those companies that are coming to invest in Guyana an opportunity to participate with local companies. We have seen a lot of companies came into Guyana, did not form partnership or consortium with local companies, run into different bottlenecks, and then at a later stage they start looking for local partners. It is always a good thing for local companies to participate and vice versa. The local content legislation allows us that platform to guarantee certain services that are offered locally to be given to local companies instead of, throwing them on the side. But we have seen significant improvement with foreign investors who comes here looking for local partners. And this is not just restricted to the oil and gas sector. While the local content legislation is focused on the oil and gas sector, we have seen in all the other sector, people are willing to come here and they are willing to partner with local company. And the other sector had nothing to do with local content legislation, by the way. All right, the local content legislation doesn't cover those other sector. But companies, because of that, I guess, and the benefit that they have seen, companies in the other sector are willing to find local companies and partner with them. All right, and I think as local businesses, we should capitalize on that as much as possible. Right, because it allows us to jump on board early, it allows us to improve our management skills, it allows us to bring us the technical expertise, and most importantly, it allows you the opportunity to access finance. As you are aware right now, access to finance for small and medium-sized business locally is a problem. All right, and that's why we're encouraging from the Private Sector Commission side, we're encouraging small and medium-sized businesses to come together in consortium and form yourself in consortium so you have a bigger voice. You can pool all your resources together, and now you can benefit from bigger projects rather than go as an individual. All right. We will continue to ask our companies to see if they can partners with themselves, come together and form those bigger consortium.
If you're looking at this program, our guest this evening is Mr. Komal Singh. Now, if you were listening to him, you would see the range of his diversified businesses. So please take the opportunity. If you want a job as an engineer, Mr. Singh said that unskilled laborers, he has vacancies for about 60 of them, and he has vacancies for very skilled people. Mr. Singh runs one of the most diversified companies in this country, with consortiums with Italian, Finnish, and American companies. So with the call-in program Friday evening, last Friday, people complained that they were not getting jobs, particularly 2 persons qualified in civil engineer. Please take my cell number, 614-5927. Call me. I will get on to Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh has also given you his cell phone number. What is it again, sir?
623-4161.
62. Now, we're going to get into the area of your administrative position in the Private Sector Commission. You're now head of one of Guyana's most glorious NGO in terms of what they did for Guyana's democracy in 1997 and particularly in 2020. It is one of Guyana's most enduring and glorious NGO. But from interviewing people in the private sector here the past 16 months, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, Komal. How do you manage?
Well, the Private Sector Commission is not managed by the chairman alone. The Private Sector Commission have an executive board comprised of 5 persons. The private sector also have about 5 subcommittees, all right, that have subcommittee chairmen. What I'm doing and what has been happening in the past also, I've strengthened that recently. We have empowered those sectoral chairmen to take up those leadership role to make sure that they champion and manage the individual sector. So take, for example, trade and investment, for example. We have a subcommittee chair that is responsible for trade and investment. We make sure that that individual is fully involved in trade and investment matters around our country and regionally. So we make sure that he sits and he represents any trade and investment issues, and he come back to the executive board and give us feedback, and then we intervene if we need to intervene at any one time. The Private Sector Commission have tremendous amount of responsibility right now in Guyana. With the development that is taking place in Guyana, and with the responsibility that government have placed on the private sector in Guyana, it is a lot of responsibility. It is a huge responsibility. And I take it with pride, and I'm very happy that I was given the opportunity to serve as a chair for this term. I'm continuing to work with the team to make sure that the Private Sector Commission develop themselves and serve its membership for the intended purpose. The Private Sector Commission have a range of membership, corporate members, sectoral members across the length and breadth of this country. we deal with all the cross-cutting issues that affect businesses in this country. We make sure that we represent every single member concerned that is addressing or affecting businesses at large. And as such, we make sure that each one of those subcommittees function effectively. And I think I can applaud them at this point in time and say that over the last few months that I've been there, we have seen tremendous increase and improvement in those subcommittee functioning and operation.
You mentioned something that all your predecessors and your colleagues that have sat on the chair you've sat. Chamber of Commerce, Guyana Manufacturing Association, private sector, they have all carped on one theme, including the head of Go Invest, Mr. Peter Ramsoop. And then you briefly alluded to it, but not using the word banking. All of your colleagues that were here have a problem with access of finance from commercial banks for small businesses, and they've all lamented it and desire for it to change.
So let me speak on that briefly. We first of all we need to make sure that the businesses that are looking for financing, banks obviously have requirement. Banks don't own the money that sits in the bank. The money belongs to their customer like myself and you. So when banks are lending that money, banks need to make sure that the money that they are lending and the person who is borrowing the money satisfies some basic criteria that will give them the comfort that that loan will be repaid back. And some of the fundamental documentation that needs to be presented, we all need to make sure that those documents are properly presented. We have proper audited financial reports, all right? We have seen companies have an issue in terms of producing valuable or proper bankable document when they go for loans. And we are currently working with one of the donor agency. I won't call the name because it's still in negotiation. We're working with one of the international donor agency right now from the private sector commission side. They will be funding us some money to have a desk in the private sector commission to work with businesses locally to help them prepare bankable document. Right?
That's good. That's very good.
So a lot of these small and medium-sized businesses who don't have a proper audited financial statement, they're operating as a sole trader, right? They will now understand what is that documentation.
But they don't have to pay for that, sir.
No. That's what I'm saying.
So that's
the donor agency is free technical advice. The donor agency will be funding that. All right. We're hoping that they will put between 800 to $1 million for over a 2-year period. All right, to fund that operation for us.
Right, there's almost $500 million Guyanese. Right.
They will also bring in their technical people to participate in that. So we're gonna have different workshops. We're still in the infant stage, right? We're working out the mechanics, but we'll be having different workshops, inviting small and medium-sized businesses to attend those workshops. We'll be having almost unique templates, all right, that they can use when they want to do their proposal to go to the bank for funding. But notwithstanding that, yes, there is an issue with access to finance for small and medium-sized business. That gives rise to an opportunity that people should capitalize on. We don't have equity financing in this country. We don't have an equity fund sitting around the place where small and medium-sized business can go to that fund and say, guys, we have this project. We need to borrow $1 million to help us to manage and run this project. And we're willing to give you 5% into this project. All right?
We don't have that.
No, we don't. Now,
it's needed.
It's badly needed. Look, we have a huge diaspora sitting out there. And the diaspora have all sorts of skills, plus they have access to funds, I'm sure. All right? This is an opportunity. When you look at the interest rate that is being given right now in North America for savings, I think it's 1% and below. If those guys in the diaspora can come together and put together an equity fund in Guyana and bring their resource and put it in that fund, and they can earn themselves a 5 and 6% interest on it, all right? They will have an opportunity to sit into that company into that project to make sure that the project doesn't fail, to help manage it. It is an opportunity for our diaspora, or even guys locally here who have excess fund, to get into that environment. The small and medium-sized businesses, a number is huge, and that is why we're encouraging them. We only had a conversation this morning. We're encouraging them to come together into consortium so they can pool the resource. They can pool all of this stuff together, and they can go to a bank now, and the bank will no longer see an individual, but they will see a consortium of people, and maybe they can be considered. Right?
But the complaints were the bank were onerous and hassling in their attitude. That you don't think that the banks have gone overboard and in an extreme direction with this money laundering thing, in which because of that they've put some real onerous demands on people?
Look, the bank obviously operates under the framework of the fiscal policy enshrined by central bank. All right, so they don't operate on their own. If there are individual areas that people feel that need to be changed, from the private sector commission standpoint, I am willing to listen to those areas that you have concern with, and listen to the merit and why you think it should change. And we have a very good relationship with the central bank governor, and the banking association is also part of the private sector commission, all right, as a member. And I'm sure that they will be willing to sit and listen to those arguments. And if it makes sense, all right, they will be more than happy to represent it. We keep hearing a lot of these issues, but we don't get the full meat. I keep saying to everybody, if you're having issue, then you must be willing to open your books to somebody who you want to represent you, so we understand exactly what is the problem. I understand, and the private sector understand, that there is an issue with accessing funds for small and medium-sized businesses. All right? We also recognize that they may not be able to have proper bankable proposal. They may not be having proper audited financial statement. All right? And those two key things will have an impact in if a bank review, approve your application. Right? So if anybody have issues, and we've said this to the private sector membership already, if you have issues and you think you're being treated unfairly, then, use the Chamber of Commerce, right? Or bring it to our attention. Let us see the details so we can represent it. Okay?
This thing that you talked about, you said it's the discussion is ongoing, but I hope people are listening this evening, and small business people, because that's a tremendous that will be a tremendous boost, in which you go to the private sector commission and their technical people going to take your stuff, do whatever, and then say, look, present this to the bank. That's a very, very interesting direction. When is that going to come on board?
Well, we're hoping it will, by the first quarter of next year, we should have some approval on that.
First quarter of next year? There's another 6 months?
No. We're into October.
Yeah, we're in October. Right? November, so December, January,
February, we should be able to fine-tune. We're in the review stage of the mechanics and how it will work right now. So we'll have that desk. We will work closely with the Chamber of Commerce, who have a couple of hundred members. We work closely with GMSA also, who have a large membership. And they all will be able to have access to that department and that desk that will work with these people to help them develop their technical skills in terms of presenting their documentation to bank for financing.
Yeah, they don't have to pay. No longer they have to pay a consultant, and a consultant charge them. A guy has a small business and he wants a loan, he has to pay a consultant. But you don't think that interest in him is the same. When that comes on board, you don't think that some consultants may lose, because I think that is what some consultants do.
No, I don't think the intention is not to take away business.
No, but the intention is to help small.
The intention is to help those small to medium-sized people. Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna give them some standardized template. We're gonna have some workshops and stuff like that working with them. We're not gonna be there forever. That program is gonna run for a year or 2 years. And after then, people still need to go and use the consultant out there.
But you're not
Right?
going to ask for it after the 2 years.
Well, we'll
you're
try.
not-
I mean, we don't want to be too greedy up front. I mean, right now, we're in the negotiation stage to have it for that one-off operation. All right? I guess depends on how that will roll out and how it pan out. We may be able to ask for extension also. But at this point in time, it's a one-off operation. Okay. So that is why we need to make sure the mechanics on how we roll it out is properly carved out. And we're going to work with our other membership, GCCI, GMSA, and the other sectoral member, to make sure we all have an input in how the document is prepared, so that within that short time, a year or two, while the program is running, make sure that everybody are able to tap into it in some way or the other. And when the program comes to an end, we're left with something tangible in our hand that we can continue to share into the small and medium-sized businesses around our country.
Mr. Komal Singh, I'm asking you now as chairman of the Private Sector Commission, is there any factual dimension to the statements that have been circulating about 2 months ago that is a foreign currency shortage?
We have, I'll just speak, I think we were supposed to have a joint statement issued. We had a meeting with our private sector organization and Ministry of Finance and the banking sector to address this matter. And I can safely say here right now, based on the information that is presented, all right, there's no, I won't say it's a shortage per se, but let me back up a little bit before I answer your question fully. What we have seen in the market is a huge demand for foreign exchange. All right, the amount of infrastructure work that is taking place currently creates a serious demand for foreign exchange. A lot of imported materials are coming into this country, materials that we don't produce locally. And as such, the demand for payment for those stuff is very high. The conversation we had with the bank is that everyone in the bank say within 1 to 5 days, if you applied, you will have your money available to do remittances. So if you want to call that shortage, or you want to call it a slowdown in how fast you can access it, it's up to you to put it to what direction you want. But from our perspective, we all agree that within 1 to 5 years, because of the high demand, it's a reasonable number of days for you to wait to access funds. I'll give you a little more practical example. 5 years ago, you could have left East Bank and reached Georgetown in half an hour. But the car population increased significantly. So what do? You become proactive, right? You no longer left half an hour, you left 1 hour before. It's the same way in that environment and space right now. We now need to be more proactive in when we apply for foreign exchange. We can no longer do it on a need basis. We have to plan our business in a little better manner and make those requests ahead of time. The banks, among the banks, they have something called interbank trading. So while you might apply today at one bank for foreign exchange, and the bank say you need to wait 3 to 4 days, another bank may have excess fund, all right? Because they don't have that high demand. But if you take all of that in an aggregate position, you will see, based on the information that was shared with us, that there's not a shortage in foreign exchange. What we have asked the bank them to do is to see if they can improve on the interbank trading, so that if somebody apply here today and the other bank have excess fund, they must be able to work themselves out. But based on the information we will receive, is that within 1 to 5 days, most of those requests, if not all, can be settled.
I want to touch on a sensitive issue, but it's out there it's being discussed in the business community. It's out there. Mm-hmm. If you feel it's too sensitive, because people like you would have business connections all over the Caribbean. I know one of your colleagues here said, made reference to it. Is Trinidad business world? Is what's happening in Trinidad a factor, a direct relation between some demands on foreign currency going out?
The only person who can answer that question accurately for you is the banking system. from the private sector perspective, we don't see those data. All right? But locally, there should be some system in place to make sure that if you go to the bank and you tell the bank you want to buy 100 sacks of cement, you need to make sure that 100 sacks of cement comes to Guyana and it doesn't go somewhere else. Right? So somewhere in the system, the banking system, they should be able to monitor those stuff. Either through GRA to make sure the product actually being imported to Guyana or so. But with our sister company, Trinidad, sitting right here, you have a number of Trinidadian companies in Guyana currently that participate in the development and growth of this economy. All right? They brought tremendous amount of experience and expertise and capital to this market. And if you look around even in the construction sector, we don't have enough local contractors to do a lot of stuff. But because Trinidad was there and they were developed and they have the capacity, we have seen a lot of major Trinidad companies coming here supporting the development. So we welcome that move. We welcome them with open arms to come into our market. They grow, they employ locals. Most of the people they employ are local Guyanese. So it creates work for our local people. That also gives rise to why we are so much in need of more workers in this country. But to answer your question, I would not sit here and say yes or no to that position. We have seen a lot of public announcement as it relates to people saying they have evidence showing that people are paying for stuff through our local bank, but the goods is not coming here. Our recommendation to the banking sector and at our meeting from the private sector standpoint is that we need to put a little bit more control mechanism in place to make sure that when someone goes to the bank and apply for money to pay for goods or services, those goods or services must come back to Guyana. So a system should be put in place whereby you give them a lead time, 3 months, 4 months, and they need to come back to you and show it through a GRA document, which is a custom entry document, that the goods or service was in fact imported and coming to Guyana. And I think that will clear up the air where that concern is at this point in time. But if that is happening, that will have an impact on our foreign exchange demand.
You made an important point which I think the layperson need to understand. And I think there's some this sudden acquisition of high national income in Guyana, which we never had. Only one instance was sugar in the early 70s, and that's nothing compared to what we're getting from oil. But this expansion of people's optimism of where their country, Guyana, is going, has given rise to a little bit of maybe questionable emotion about Trinidad. And you said something just now which I think our viewers and the journalistic community and the political community in Guyana need to know. You said positively that there's a groundswell of Trinidadian companies coming in, and it has a positive spin-off on the economy in Guyana because these people came from an oil country, etc., etc. There is this little talk you hear outside here that they're coming in here. They're coming in here to, you know what I mean by coming in here. I don't want to go further.
No, I know what you're talking about. Now, look, I'll speak in more broader sense and general sense. The ballooning that is taking place in Guyana at this point in time in our economy and the development of our economy and the infrastructure in this country, we have more than enough for all of Guyanese and the region.
Okay.
All right? We should be happy that right next door have the capacity and the capability to help support us. All right? I think a lot of growth comes about from time to time because there are some small issues that need to be fixed between Guyana and Trinidad on the trade and investment side. All right? And the private sector is working very closely. We had a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the ambassador here for Trinidad, and he committed to us, to work with us and his government to see how they can remove some of those issues. And one of them, I think, is the tropical honey issue, which has been going on for decades.
Can't go
right?
through now.
But, he did give us the assurance that the government of Trinidad...
But no longer honey issue.
Yeah, but I think the time is right now. Everyone see the benefit of of addressing the issue, especially the Trinidadian government. The government of Guyana, and I know for sure Ministry of Agriculture here, is working in close collaboration with them. But the ambassador did commit to us that in principle, they have agreed to have that matter addressed. It's just an administrative documentation need to be done to pass it in Parliament, so they can have that legislative change. And I think recently we saw a public announcement on it also. So I think from the agriculture standpoint and our manufacturing sector, we are very pleased to know that government here and government of Trinidad is working aggressively to remove that. But we should look at Trinidad in a more broad sense, right, on what they can bring to the table for us. All right, they're right here, they're English speaking, they have all the access, it's easy movement between Trinidad and Guyana. And like I've said, we have seen tremendous amounts of support in the construction sector, positive impact. And if we didn't have some of those major contracting companies here, a lot of our projects that are moving at fast pace right now could have been affected because our local companies max out at this point in time. Every single contractor in this country right now have more than 5 contracts in their hand. And this is not 5 $100,000 US contract. All right? All of these contracts are bigger than that right now. We have woken up one morning and moved from a $100,000 contract to a $1 million contract. All right? That changed the landscape of construction and development significantly for businesses.
Let me, as our operator told me, we got 3 minutes more, and I want to get into some lighter aspect of the interview. When I look at your when I listen to your description of your company and how it is it's now diversified, and you Geico, I think most people that were in journalism or around the place in business would know Geico. So I knew Geico before I knew you. I knew about Geico. Now you have this monster, quote unquote. Do you get time to relax? Do you get time to what's your cultural background? You're Muslim, Christian, Hindu?
No, I'm a Hindu.
You're a Hindu.
Yes, I'm Hindu by birth. I still follow my religion very closely. I'm very passionate about family. You can be the most successful businessman when it comes to finance and everything, but I measure my success to make sure that the family is there. All right, you can't.
How much years of marriage?
28 years of marriage.
Okay.
You can't call yourself successful, and you can't make sure you have time for your family and have a closely knitted family. I'm very passionate about making sure that my family is there and I have time for my family. If you see me around the country, you will see 4 of us most of the time, if not all the time, going around the place.
Wife, son, and daughter.
Son and daughter.
and the head of the business thing. So you get time to relax and.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I make sure that there's always little time to relax.
You know, businessmen got to do their exercise. You know what stress does to you?
I know. But one thing I don't do, Freddie, if you know me very well, I don't take on stress. You will see me calm most of the time.
But that's the key, because when you hear a tractor, when you hear you're into a fertilizer plant now. When you hear electricity gone from the thing, or some boiler, some boiler collapse.
Instead of stressing, I take the time to figure out how to fix the issue or to fix the problem. All right. Try not to stress. After the stress, you still need to fix the problem. So I put stress before the problem.
Okay. The thing. But I think it's redundant asking you if we now have a secure and assured future nationally in this country. I'm not going to ask a successful businessman to answer that, because the answer will be obvious. But how high in the sky you expect us to soar? Because this oil find seems to be the talk of all the business magazines and the financial analyst magazines around the world. Do you see in another 20, 30, 35 years our future is assured?
Definitely. Look, I think right now investor confidence level in this country has been the highest ever. All right, and that's where you see tons of people are pouring into this country looking to invest. We do have a political stability. We have a democracy environment that we operate in, and I think the future for all Guyana is good. All right, I'm not saying this to make anybody happy in any form or fashion. I'm saying it from my perspective, and I think if every Guyanese look to the future and tell yourself that you should be part of that developmental part to make Guyana a better place and participate in the development. Every one of us have an opportunity to participate in that development. I think 10 or 15 years from now, Guyana will be a totally transformed place. All right? We have a small population. We have a massive economy that is coming in front of us. We have the fastest growing economy in the world. We have seen all of our other sector growing significantly outside of the oil sector. And that tells a lot of story that none of our other sectors is being left behind for oil and gas. They're growing equally with oil and gas. And when you looked at that growth, it gives you the comfort and the assurance that 10, 15, 20 years from now, Guyana is not going to be suffering from the Dutch disease. We're going to have an economy, a robust economy, an economy that is sustainable, an economy that every single Guyanese will be comfortable waking up one morning and have an environment where the kids can go to school, go to a good school, have access to road, have access to proper hospital and healthcare facility. That is what we're looking for at the end of the day. And I think when you look at the strategic developmental plan that government is working to achieve, and the private sector is working to achieve also, equally with the government, I think our future is well assured. And I'm very happy to be part of that developmental process for Guyana.
I'm going to end on a personal note now. Komal Singh has seen and has lived the life where ordinary people needed to be elevated, to be helped. What Komal Singh and his company is doing in terms of philanthropy, in terms of helping the orphanage, the hospitals.
We believe in giving back to society. We give back to society on a daily basis, and we do it with pride. We want to see Guyana development. There is so much non-charitable organization in this country that needs support. And GEICO over the years has been working very closely with many of them, offering support almost on a daily basis across the length and breadth of this country. We will continue to do that because we feel that we owe our community the support. We were privileged enough to have what we have, and I think giving back to society is only right at this point in time, and we will continue to do so.
I enjoy this conversation, and I've learned something about that private sector project in which people can come, small business can come and have their be guided as to how to present documents. I really found that interesting. It was nice talking to you, and we have to do this again.
Thank you very much, Freddie. Right.
You were looking for the past hour at Mr. Komal Singh, chairman of the Private Sector Commission, with a man with one of the most interesting stories of Guyana. From very humble beginning, Mr. Singh was a taxi driver, was a minibus driver, was a carpenter, and Mr. Singh today runs one of Guyana's most diversified companies. I would like to tell you that he has extended an invitation to people to apply to his company for job. He said he's willing to employ engineers, unskilled laborers. They will be trained. This is a glorious opportunity for you. One, to elevate yourself if you're already employed and you need to look greener pastures, or you're not employed. It was indeed enthralling and interesting speaking to one of Guyana's leading entrepreneurs, Mr. Komal Singh, currently the chairman of Guyana Private Sector Commission. Mr. Singh, once more, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Right. We'll be here next We'll be here Wednesday coming. We'll have an interesting, very, very, very vocal Minister of Government. Sorry, Leonard Gildarie couldn't make it, but let's hope he's here on Wednesday. As I normally say, bye-bye, catch you later.